Superman 78, The Metal Curtain Issue 3, heads to the Daily Planet, where Perry White storms out of his office to look for Lois, since every paper except the Planet is covering the American spy plane going down in the Arctic. He asks Jimmy where Lois is, but he has no idea where she or Clark are. Frustrated, Perry tells him to do something about it, as he notices almost every one of his reporters is gone. In the Bering Sea, the US Marines spot the downed spy plane pilot and the unconscious Superman on the frozen shore, sending out a rescue boat to collect them. Later on, Superman has flashes of Metallo's attack on him, waking to find himself on a ship in the presence of a military general, who says that he flew through the night to get there just to see him, wanting to know what gives Superman nightmares. Superman asks where he is and who the man is, and the general introduces himself as General Sam Lane, and Superman is on board the Herbert Hoover, a US Navy destroyer that pulled him and the downed pilot out of the drink. Sam is aware that Superman knows his daughter, and Superman tries to shake the general's hand, finding it to be a pleasure to finally meet him, but the general doesn't return the handshake, wanting to know what happened out there. The hero tells him that he heard a distress call, confusing Sam since those spy planes use top secret frequencies, thinking Superman has some sort of spy equipment available to him. Superman reveals that he can just hear it, having trained himself only to hear important words, otherwise he just hears everything. Sam wants to hear more, learning of the man in some kind of armor who was able to beat him. He remembers the man's name was Metallo, a name that Sam knows. He tells Superman that he is a Russian secret project to create something more powerful than the entire nuclear arsenal at Russia's disposal. But the last thing he heard about it, it was still years from completion thanks to problems with the radiation in its power source. And it's bad news if Metallo is now operational. Superman wants to help, but Sam reminds him that while his daughter trusts the hero, and that trust goes a long way with him, he has already tried to help and he was almost killed for it. So he should just stand aside, since the next time they might not be able to save him. Not that they did much for him this time, since they couldn't even get an IV drip into his arm. Sam asks why he was this far north, but Superman dodges the question, leaving the ship as Sam tells him to stay out of it. As Superman heads into the sky, Sam now understands what Lois sees in him, but it doesn't mean he gives him his blessing. The spy plane pilot thinks he's talking to him, but Sam knows he's talking to Superman, who is listening in to the conversation with his super hearing. Later at the Fortress of Solitude, Superman returns to Lois, who fell asleep. She demands to know where he went, learning that he responded to an emergency and that Superman met her father. Superman notices that Lois is wearing a Kryptonian robe as sleepwear, finding that she looks real beautiful. Lois decides that it's time to change, so Superman leaves, but not before catching Lois admiring herself in the House of L robes. In Moscow, Metallo continues to push his newfound super strength to the limits, lifting a T-72 tank up by a chain like it is nothing. Comrade Morozov arrives, seeing Nikolai's strength continue to grow thanks to the kryptonite heart now powering the armor. Nikolai says that his own heart is what gives him the power, swelling with pride and love for his country. Morozov confidently stands under the tank, telling Metallo that he was given orders and the night before was a test and their intentions were made clear. Nikolai knows that that's why he was not allowed to kill Superman and why he was allowed to live, but Morozov reminds him he wasn't even allowed to engage the hero at all, and now America knows their poker cards. Nikolai is angered, demanding to know why he couldn't kill the Superman with his bare hands, since in doing so there would be nothing to stop the hammer and sickle from being raised on Washington. Morozov tells him that had he killed Superman up there, no one would have been around to see it, least of all Americans, and this is what the whole point of this is, to make the Americans tremble. Nikolai begrudgingly agrees as Morozov moves slightly as the tank drops, barely missing him. Without even flinching, Morozov tells Metallo that he'll soon get a chance at what he wants, and in response, Nikolai violently crushes the tank with a single blow. Meanwhile, at the Daily Planet, Clark, still feeling the effects of the kryptonite, stumbles towards the toilets, getting in the way of Steve Lombard. As he gets to the washroom, he has more flashes of Metallo's attack, causing him to sweat and become fatigued. He splashes water across his face as Lois comes in, asking if he's okay. Clark waves it off as something he ate, reminding Lois that she's in the men's room. Lois doesn't seem to care, since Perry wants to see the both of them now. Meeting with the reporters, Perry demands they tell him what's going on with this story. Clark tries to tell him, but Perry shushes him, allowing Lois to tell him of the U-2 spy plane crashing, and while the official statement is equipment malfunction, a good source to her tells her that it was attacked by a man wearing some type of flying armor. Perry wants confirmation on Lois's source, but Lois can't get anything from any of her military contacts. He asks who her trustworthy source is, and Lois, without outrightly saying it, alludes to Superman being the source. Clark knows that's not true, but Perry reminds him that he's the only editor-in-chief in the room and he's got faith in Lois's investigation, so the planet will back her story. Later on, Clark asks if Lois is sure about this, since he doesn't seem to think Superman would tell her about that, since he wouldn't want people to worry. Lois reveals that she interviewed Superman quite a bit, and even at his house late last night, so she thinks she is a good judge of what he would and wouldn't want. As Lois picks up her phone, she tells Clark to bring her a whole pot of coffee, since it's going to be a very long night. With Clark gone, Lois calls someone, telling them that she told Perry that Superman was her source, hoping the person on the other end of the phone knows what they are doing, since tomorrow morning there is no going back. The next morning, the Daily Planet reports on the Russians taking down the American spy plane. One of the papers is taken by a man from a newsstand, not even bothering to pay the attendant. The man, revealed to be Lex Luthor, is angered that the Russians are behind this and that they think they could lie to him and get away with it.